And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Boomer Life, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you as we talk over the next hour about hearing and the latest innovations in hearing. We're also going to talk about hearing loss, and our guest back with us from Next Gen and Mainland Hearing is audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am well, thanks. Good to see you again, Ted.
Likewise.
You're an audiologist, so what exactly is an audiologist?
Someone who's very, very odd.
You can get away with that on St. Patrick's Day, you know. Any other day of the year.
And you spell it O-D-D, audiologist. No, it's audiologist is like an optometrist, but for the ear.
Okay.
Okay, an audiologist tests hearing and examines for any ear pathology, and an audiologist fits hearing aids. And an audiologist, is like for the ear, an audiologist, optometrist would be for the eye.
And you took part of your training, at least part of your training, as an audiologist right here in this neighborhood just down the road at Western Washington University in Bellingham.
In Hellingham. That's what I done.
So, but how long have you been an audiologist, and what have you done since you're a PhD now?
Yeah, piled higher and deeper, or poor honest doctor.
You've also been a professor as well.
Yes, I have. I left. I graduated out of Western in Bellingham in '88, and ended up working at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, and then at the Canadian Hearing Society in Toronto, and things like that. And then I ended up studying down at University of Oklahoma to study for a PhD, and then taught at Auburn and Alabama, for 2 years, and then moved back to Canada and worked at a hearing aid company called Unitron, which is Canada's only homemade hearing aid company.
Okay.
Homegrown company, and worked there for a few years, and then taught at the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, which has a large master's degree audiology program.
Okay.
And then later on, I started up my own a program, a 2-year hearing instrument practitioner program at Conestoga College in Kitchener.
Okay.
I got tired of the academia, pure university life. I thought I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven.
Okay.
So I started a 2-year college program instead of a master's degree program, which is what audiologists graduate with.
And that 2-year college program was called, again?
Conestoga College, and it's a hearing instrument practitioner program.
So that would specifically do with the application of hearing aids.
Yeah, kind of. Hearing instrument practitioner is like an optician.
Okay.
And an audiologist is like an optometrist.
Oh, I see.
So optometrist and audiologists are university trained.
Right.
And an optician or a hearing instrument practitioner, they do largely the same thing, but they're college trained.
Right. So but again, using the optician and optometrist. The optometrist is the eye doctor.
Yeah.
That's the person who's going to put you through the series of tests.
Yes.
And write the prescription for the new lenses you're going to need.
That's right.
Then the optician will make the glasses.
You're right. Now, audiology is a little bit different.
Okay.
The first thing, an audiologist doesn't do any surgery like an ear, nose, and throat physician does.
Oh, okay,
and
right.
In the eye world, that would be an ophthalmologist.
Yes, exactly.
Okay?
Right.
The audiologist can tests hearing, prescribes hearing aids, and fits hearing aids. And so, by the way, can a hearing instrument practitioner. They can also prescribe hearing aids here in BC. The laws differ from province to province, but essentially both of them can test hearing and recommend the hearing aid and fit it.
All right.
What makes them different is an audiologist can test infants. An audiologist and a hearing instrument practitioner can't. Because infants can't tell you what they hear.
Well, that's true.
So an audiologist is trained in doing brain waves and tests that are more, that are different kind of tests to get at really what the hearing levels of the infant are.
Have you, as a professional, have you
I've done that.
have you worked with little kids?
Yeah, I have.
And do they bring small children to you, Ted, because they're concerned that mom and dad are just concerned that, we're speaking to this child, and they're not hearing properly. Right. We can tell already.
You'll get infants that are 2 months old.
I was just going to say, at what age would you notice that?
As soon as some places have universal infant screening programs.
Oh, okay.
So they'll screen right away at birth. It's just a de rigueur thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, though, language acquisition in the kid isn't coming along like the normal milestones.
Sure.
And that gets noticed, and then the first thing, well, let's find out if the hearing is normal.
Right, right.
Because you have to hear in order to learn
To
speech.
reproduce sound,
Yeah.
sure.
So that's where the baby will be brought to an audiologist to do brain waves or other types of tests called otoacoustic emissions and all these other kinds to assess, and then so pediatric fitting is really in charge of the audiologist. An audiologist can also sometimes work with cochlear implants. Most audiologists don't, but if you're going to be working with cochlear implants, an audiologist, not a hearing instrument practitioner, will do that.
Okay, right.
Both the roles intersect when it comes to mainline, what do you call it, adult hearing aid fittings.
Oh, okay.
Which is 95% of, the field is fitting adults with hearing aids.
Right.
And that's where the two will coalesce, audiologists and hearing instrument practitioners.
Sure. I was just fascinated by the whole concept even of dealing with tiny little people and their hearing issues. Because this is Boomer Life, and you've been on Boomer Life with us before, Dr. Ted.
We have so.
And we've identified at the other end of the age spectrum, from the very small to the boomers, the sort of 55 pluses. And hearing loss is a predictable, natural event in the course of most humans' lives.
It is. It's the biggest cause of hearing loss is aging.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're not a nice person. It just means you're getting better.
Right.
But what happens is, I call it the trouble with treble. When you get to be about 65, you start losing a lot of high-pitched hearing sensitivity. You can hear the bass, but you can't hear the treble as well. And that means you don't hear the the consonants of speech.
Right.
So the people think, people are mumbling. You can't hear what the word was. It's called presbycusis.
Okay.
Like Presbyterian, Church of the Elders.
Right.
Presbycusis, hearing of the elders.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So we all have that, don't we?
My time's coming. I'm 58. It's coming.
Ah, okay. But we were going to spend a little bit of time on this episode of Boomer Life, Dr. Ted, talking about something called tinnitus.
Yep, tinnitus.
Or tinnitus.
Or tomato.
Well, I've always heard of it. I know the name, and even though I mispronounced it, I've always just heard of it as ringing in the ears.
Correct, yeah. Tinnitus comes from the Latin word tinere, which means to tinkle or to ring like a bell.
Okay,
yeah.
So ringing in the ear. I've known that phrase since I was a little boy.
Yeah. That's right, and that's what it really is. Tinnitus or tinnitus. It's with two N's in it. It's common. How many people in Canada? 30 to 35 million. Bet you dollars to donuts about 5 million people walk around with tinnitus.
So what exactly is tinnitus?
It's
easy for me to say.
Yeah, it's a ringing in the ear and no one else hears it, just the person. So it's a subjective thing. It's not like a doctor can, I can hear that ringing in the ear. It's not a sound actually coming out of your ear.
Okay.
But you are hearing a sound in your head, and you might have it in one ear, you might have it in both ears.
What's more common?
Usually in both ears.
Okay.
But you know what? Noise-induced hearing loss. Hearing loss caused by noise. That can be greater in one ear than another ear. I mean, you might be right-handed or left-handed. You might be a target shooter. You're going to get the rifle held on one side versus the other side.
Right.
You might have noise exposure like a trucker, more in your left ear with the window open, you know. So that ear may get more noise-induced hearing loss, and that ear may have more tinnitus.
So is it sort of axiomatic? Is it automatic if you have some degree of hearing loss that you're also going to have tinnitus?
No, you know what? You can
so
have.
It's not an automatic.
Nope, it's not.
Okay.
You can have hearing loss with or without tinnitus.
Okay.
And you can have tinnitus with or without hearing loss.
Oh.
Yeah, some people with super sensitive hearing. Young woman, 21 years old, you test her hearing and it's at like minus 10 decibels. I mean, her hearing is just like fantastic. And she'll be going, please get a fire going when we're camping. I can't stand the dead quiet. How come? I just keep hearing a ringing in my ears.
Wow.
And so they like a little bit of background noise, just to cover it.
So now it sounds you're talking about a 30-year-old woman with fantastic hearing.
You can.
So this is not something that just because we're on Boomer Life talking about tinnitus doesn't necessarily mean it's an affliction that affects only 55 plus people.
That's correct. Yep.
So you can get tinnitus
Oh,
as a little kid.
Yes, you can. Well, it's not common in children, but you can. But really, tinnitus can be associated sometimes with super sensitive hearing. Now, think about it. When you've gone in a sound, have you ever been in a soundproof room or a dead quiet room? A room that's just like really, really quiet. They call them anechoic chambers, where they're soundproof, and you'll hear your lunch digest. I mean, you're hearing everything.
Right.
And you will often hear ringing in your ear that you never thought you had. Background
But not
noise.
like a bell necessarily.
No, not like a bell.
Just a tone of some kind.
Yep. And many people have it, but they don't even know they hear it until it's dead quiet. And most people suffering from tinnitus tend to hear it more at night when it's quiet, when they're trying to sleep. And then, of course, they hear that noise, and they can't sleep, which heightens the anxiety.
Right.
And then they hear the noise, and it heightens the anxiety, and you're building a loop. It's just an awful cycle. So, the nice thing about hearing aids is that they tend to pick up a little bit of background noise. Now, that's the silver lining for the tinnitus sufferer.
Interesting. But what causes tinnitus?
Well, that's a really good question, Sterling. The cause can be as simple as earwax laying up against the eardrum. But then again, the cause can be from the inner ear. Now, if you think of the inner ear, they call it the cochlea. That's the Greek word for snail shell.
Okay.
That's as big as the tip of your little finger. You got one for each ear, buried in the hardest bone of the body, in the skull, the petrous bone, Peter the Rock.
Okay.
So you get me going, I'll never shut up.
Oh, okay.
At any rate, you got these little tiny hair cells inside of there. Now, some of these hair cells send info to your brain. Some of them take info from your brain. So your inner ear is like a two-way street. It takes brain going and brain leaving information.
So, and all of the information it's processing is sound waves?
Sound waves are changed into electricity by that cochlea, that inner ear. Because electricity is the language your brain understands. Your whole nervous system runs on electricity.
All right.
So those hair cells some are sending info to your brain, and some are taking info from your brain to modulate to control what's going on. And when there's an imbalance in that two-way street, tinnitus.
Oh.
Now, that's just going to suggest, well, can you fix it? No, you can't go in there and fix it. The scalpel's too big to fit inside of a cochlea. You can't get in there. Okay, that's the house of the holy. You can't get in there. It's tiny. It's like I said, as big as your pinky fingernail, and you have 15,000 hair cells inside of there. So, the treatment for tinnitus is getting the person to manage it, coping strategies, and basically if you can get the person to think, look, it's not scary, it's just a nuisance.
Right.
It's a drag.
Take me back though to the cochlea, because now you've got me intrigued.
Okay.
Because this tiny little thing the size of the tip of your little finger, you have one in each ear. A few moments ago, you mentioned cochlear implants.
Yeah.
So what is that?
That's for people who are almost stone deaf. They can't benefit from regular hearing aids because they've got so much hair cell damage that you can't wring blood from a stone, laddie.
Okay.
Of course, that's Scottish. It's St. Paddy's Day. Wrong accent. Anywho, cochlear implant is actually a series of tiny electrodes snaked inside of that snail-shaped organ. And it serves to actually act kind of as a hair cell replacement in a coarse way. So you're not hearing tons of different frequencies, but you basically can hear pretty good. It'll restore hearing up to about a borderline normal level. And, the infants who are born deaf, if they're fitted with a cochlear implant, you'll watch their language acquisition increase.
Well, it's interesting you would mention.
Phenomenal.
Are kids the usual recipients of cochlear?
Usually.
Because I saw a thing on YouTube about a month ago, and it was all over Facebook, and everybody, most of us have seen it. It's a picture, a shot in an audiologist's office of a little boy. He's maybe 4 or 5. And he's had a cochlear transplant, and he's never heard his mother's voice before. And so the little fella is sitting there, and of course the cameras are on him, and his mom comes into the room and starts talking. And his face, it's just absolute magic.
It's one of those.
Kid, I mean, he's weeping, but it's all joy. It's just 100%. One of the most joyous little clips I've seen in years. A little boy hearing his mom's voice for the first time at age 4. That's pretty phenomenal.
Those are those cathartic moments that make the whole field worthwhile.
Well,
absolutely. Those are the ones that move you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and for a person in the field, you have a look at one of those and you go, yep, that's why I do this work.
Yep, for sure.
So now tinnitus is mostly a problem affecting grown-ups.
Usually, yes.
At what age, is there a certain age threshold that it can start to annoy us?
As I say, sometimes elderly people with hearing loss, presbycusis, old age hearing loss, the 65 old age, what am I talking about? I'm nearly there myself.
Hey, no.
At any rate, some of those people will have tinnitus and some won't. What I say to the people who do have the tinnitus, who are elderly, I said, when you're young, you heard ambient room noise. And that ambient room noise covered or masked the tinnitus that you now hear. But now you've got a little bit of hearing loss, so you don't hear the ambient room noise anymore.
Right.
So you're no longer getting that noise to be able to mask the sound inside of your head. So now you're hearing that. If you can give a person an explanation,
right,
that takes so much of the anxiety out of it. It's much like you're stuck in traffic and you're what are you stuck in traffic for? And you lean out, oh, there's a truck tipped over. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Get on the cell phone, call home.
Right.
If you can get the person to realize it's a nuisance. It's not dangerous. You're not going to die. It's not like you're not going mad. Okay.
Well, and that would be the first inclination.
That's right.
If you don't know what's going on, and suddenly you start hearing these weird noises, and they don't go away.
That's right.
After a while, you're going to start convincing yourself you're going absolutely out of your cotton-picking mind.
Correct. You're going to perseverate on it. You're going to be concentrating on it. Your heightened awareness now. You've got a heightened awareness of it, and it just becomes an unholy drag. It becomes a cycle of anxiety.
Need to take a break here, Dr. Ted, but does everyone, or can everyone, get tinnitus?
Anyone can get tinnitus, yeah. Anyone can, but not everyone has it.
Not everyone has it. But
I don't have it.
Do we have moments of it in our lives ever?
Yep. Haven't you ever heard the sound of kind of all of a sudden in your ear like, and then it goes away?
Yeah.
That's the sign of one hair cell signing off for good.
Oh, is that right? Oh.
So I've read.
Oh.
And so, we all get tinnitus like that. But the person, some medications can bring it on. But the whole thing is to take the chain off the person's brain.
Well, that's
if you can break that cycle of anxiety. And we can talk much more about that in the show here.
We absolutely will. Let me take a quick break here. Our guest is a registered audiologist, and, he's also an owner with Next Gen Hearing Centers over there in Oak Bay in Victoria, right?
In Gordon Head location.
Gordon Head, okay.
In Victoria.
But there's one in Oak Bay as well.
There is so.
There are Next Gen Hearing Centers all over Vancouver Island.
We are legion. We are increasing.
And Mainland Hearing Centers here in Vancouver. Our guest is audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. This is Boomer Life, and we're back with lots more after this quick timeout.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.